Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric from Eric Candy here. Today we are back with another first impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new set Remix Bout that just got revealed in Japan. So I know we're still waiting for our unified mind set, but Japan is wasting no time getting some more cards here. So yeah, this set just got revealed in full. It's not technically released yet. I think it comes out, actually it says right here on the page that we're looking at, comes out on July 5th. We don't have any of the secret rares and full arts and stuff like that, but as far as all of the main cards in the set, we do have all of them that we're going to look at here. So I really haven't seen too much of this set. I've seen some of the tag teams that got revealed prior, but I really haven't even looked through this set to see what all came out in it. So by and large, guys, this is going to be my first impressions, and of course, whenever we inevitably get this set, released internationally, we will of course do a full set review in depth whenever these cards get closer to coming to the rest of the world. So let's see what we got here. Up first, we do have Venusaur and Snivy GX, all of the Kanto starters. Did get new tag teams in the set. So Venusaur and Snivy, the first one we're going to take a look at here, has this ability, Shining Vine. If this Pokemon is your active, whenever you attach a grass energy from hand to this Pokemon during your turn, you may choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch it with their active. See, Grass Triple Colorist 160, and then Triple Colorist does 50 to each of your opponent's Pokemon, but if you have 2 extra energy, heal all damage. This card doesn't seem that good. The ability is definitely interesting because we're in a format with very limited gusting effects. But I believe there actually is a really good item card that might be the preferred gusting effect going forward that we'll be taking a look at later in this first impressions video. But this ability, I think at a glance sounds like it's really good, but the issue is if you're attaching to Venusaur here, you're not attaching to any of your other attackers. And the reason I am implying that you have other attackers is because this card is a terrible attacker. 4 energy for 160 is pretty terrible, and especially since we don't have double colorless energy in the format anymore, you don't really have a great way at getting this guy, I think, up and running. So if you're playing this, like I said, I think you're definitely playing other attackers with this thing. And like I said, if you're attaching for turn to this thing instead of your actual attacker, you're in kind of a bad spot. So it kind of requires your board to be super set up and not needing any more attachments to keep on going, which almost makes this more of a win more card at that point. So terrible attack, pretty good ability, but unfortunately there's not really a good use I can see for this. If we get something like a Magnezone style effect for grass Pokemon, or like Magnezone, Emboar, Blastoise, etc., that can accelerate as many energies as we want from hand, then we might be in business. But until then, card's pretty bad. So we have Tangrowth. Let's see, 30 10 plus 30 for each energy, and the retreat cost of your opponent's active. Not too great, but well, we do have Absol. So let's see, if you have 2 Tangrowth in play and then 4 Absol. So if you have 4 Absol, that's a plus 120, which really isn't too shabby, actually. So that seems pretty interesting. Not sure if it's good enough to actually see play, because even at that point, you're probably only, if they have a 2 retreat cost, you're hitting 180, which isn't terrible, but I think there's probably just more efficient ways of doing that more than likely. Yeah, not a big fan of this thing. Heracross, this one did get revealed pretty early on, if I remember correctly. Let's see, Triple Colors 50 plus 70 if your opponent has any tag team Pokemon in play. So this actually could be pretty good if we ever get a very viable Grass Week tag team Pokemon. This really isn't too bad. The only issue is you're hitting for 120 times 2 is 240, which is a decent amount of damage, but most of the tag teams seem to have a little bit more HP than that. So especially if we ever get a Choice Band reprint, this could definitely be a solid tech Pokemon at some point. Pretty much contingent upon the quality of, I think, Grass Week tag teams that we get. So probably not great immediately, but decent tech to keep your eye on. Tropius, colorless energy, switch deck for grass attached to one of your Pokemon. Not too bad, I guess. So you could play this with Celosaur and greens. That actually doesn't seem too bad. Or maybe even the new Venusaur Celebi. not Venusaur Selby, but the Venusaur Snivy we looked at, maybe. I don't know. I like the idea of playing this as like a starter Pokemon in like a greens deck, kind of in the way that Charizard plays like a heavy Volcanion line to get set up. Maybe you could do something like this with Tropius, but at the same time, you don't really have a great secondary effect for this first attack like Volcanion does. So, not sure if it'll actually see play. The more I think about it, so we got Sawsbuck. Let's see. Once during a turn, before you attack, you may draw a card. Pretty mediocre. We have a Alolan Sandslash, or we've had. I forget if that card rotates or not, but card hasn't seen too much play. I mean, this is at least searchable by Netball. The Deerling is, of course, that is relevant right now since we don't have many great search options. Attack not too great though, unfortunately. Let's see. So we have Charizard Braixen GX, one of the other new tag teams. So fire type, that's immediately good in the current format since we have a ton of fire support right now. So let's see. 2 attacks first to which 3 fire colorist is 180, and you may search your deck for up to 3 cards, put them into your hand. That's actually really not a completely terrible attack. Second attack for fire energy though, let's see. Attach 5 basic energies from your discard to any way that you like. If you have at least 1 extra energy on this Pokemon, your opponent's active is now burn and confused. So this actually is kind of interesting. So since we did lose Choice Band, Reshizard right now is actually kind of in a weird spot where outside of your GX attack, with the extra conditions met, you don't really have a great way at knocking out a lot of tag teams right now. And if the format continues to go more of like a 2-hit knockout oriented type of format, this actually could be really good. Right now, at the time of filming, we don't even have Unified Minds yet, so we'll have to see how the format's going to kind of shape up. Like I said, if we are seeing a bunch of tag teams that are going more for like 2-hit knockouts, this actually could be a really good attack because you don't really have to be concerned about one-shotting things, 180, 2 shots everything pretty reliably, and searching your deck for any 3 cards is really, really good. That's actually a really insane secondary effect. So I don't know. I actually kind of do like this card. Like I said, if the format does continue to look like a more 2-hit knockout oriented format, this card's good. If we're still in a one-shotting format, there's probably just going to be better options than this thing. Definitely interesting card though. See, we have Ponyta, Rapidash, and actually, just funny thing about, have we ever had a good Rapidash card? Like, not that I can ever recall. Maybe there's something in like the Diamond and Pearl format, or maybe even like the e-reader formats, because those were like when I kind of played the least. Maybe there was something I'm forgetting, but man, Rapidash always kind of gets the shaft from Pokemon, unfortunately. Let's see, we have Entei, and we got Rally Back Entei. So 30 plus 90 if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack on your opponent's last turn. And I really do like the artwork on this thing. Pretty good illustration of Entei there. So that's actually pretty decent because, even though the 2 energy costs would normally be kind of annoying, this is just a welder away from attacking, which actually makes this not too bad, especially in like counter energy based decks. Like in the expanded format, we have kind of a decent little fire type attacker potentially that fills a similar role as the Shaman that we've had for a while. So this is definitely a very situational card, but I could definitely see how this could pop up as a tech. See, we've got Victini here. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 from one of your benched Pokemon. And that does stack, so that's actually pretty interesting. Just trying to think what we're going to be playing this in. That's the only thing. What's actually interesting, you could play like a bunch of these and a bunch of Shamans in like the Celosaur deck for just an insane amount of healing. That seems actually kind of funny. Probably not good, but yeah, this ability, it's okay. I don't really know what's great with this off the top of my head, but this definitely could be a decent card, especially if we get like a good spreading archetype coming into the mix. This could be a decent ability as well. Especially since it's not limited to just fire Pokemon or like a specific type of Pokemon like the Shaman I just mentioned. So, yeah, it could be good. We'll have to see. We got Tepig, Pignite, and Tepig's actually pretty girthy, man. This dude's got 80 HP. It's pretty good for like a low HP basic. Or not so low HP in his case. So we got Pignite, and we got my boy Emboar. It's been a while since we've seen Emboar, especially a decent one. So let's see, 170 HP. Jesus, man, this thing is pretty tanky. But this ability, whenever you play this Pokemon from your hand, evolve one of your Pokemon, you may look at the top 8 cards and attach any basic energy you find there to your Pokemon any way that you like. And then he crashed for 160. Man, so I'm actually not a huge fan of this ability. We've seen this kind of in the past. There was a Togekiss all the way back, and it might have been Roaring Skies, if I remember correctly, had an ability kind of like this. And Togekiss saw like virtually no play. We even have the Blastoise right now that can do this for water energy, and Blastoise doesn't really see that much play. But then again, Blastoise is type specific. This is not, and you get to dig 8 cards deep as opposed to just 6 with Blastoise, so that's kind of the trade-off. But the big downside is you only do this whenever you evolve this Pokemon, so that's definitely a bummer. But, you know, this still could theoretically be an option for some Pokemon that don't have any specific types of energy acceleration. But at the same time, I think if I'm trying to like cheat energies for a type that doesn't really have great acceleration, I think Porygon Z is just generally going to be better. So unfortunately, a pass from me. And we got Blastoise Piplup GX, the last of our Kanto trio tag teams that we have here. So 270 HP. So unfortunately, Heracross is not going to be one-shotting something like this tag team unless we get Choice Band back as a reprint at some point. But let's see, Double Water Colors 150. You may attach up to 3 water energy from your hand to your Pokemon any way you like. Then heal 50 from each of those Pokemon you attached, or for each energy you attach to them. Okay, okay. And then we have Bubble Launcher, same attack cost, 100. Your opponent's active is now paralyzed. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra water energies attached, does 150 more. So this is actually a card, I remember when the translations first went up, I just kind of read this quickly and it's like, this doesn't seem too great. But I'm like kind of thinking about it, I actually might kind of like this. Because once you get one of these Blastoise Piplups set up, you can actually just kind of keep chaining them. And what I mean by that is, if you're playing like a quad style deck, or just a deck that plays multiple of these Blastoise Piplups, once you get one set up, you can then from there keep accelerating water energy, like retreating using energy retrievals, fishermen's, things like that, and just kind of cycle in between these Blastoise Piplups. And just putting a fresh attacker up ideally every turn that one of these things gets swung on. So this first attack actually doesn't seem too bad. The healing 50 is actually really spicy too. I don't think I really caught that the first time I looked at this thing. So I actually think I do like this. You can use greens with it as well, which is worth pointing out. Unfortunately, we don't have Aqua Patch anymore. That would, I think, actually make this card pretty solid. That's the big downside right now, is that we don't have an effective way to power this thing up, but without reliable gusting effects right now. But that might be soon to change with the set. You might even still be able to power this thing up manually on the bench potentially, or there is still, of course, the Blastoise from Team Up that we got that can get energies in play. We still have like the Quagnag style of accelerating energies as well. So, I don't know. I actually do kind of like this attack. GX attack also isn't too bad either. You basically have the option, you want to go for like a 2-shot and have the paralysis to kind of almost turn this into a 1-shot in a way where you're going to do 100, paralyze them, they can't move, and then you finish them off without taking any damage. So, that's actually pretty cool. Or, of course, if you fulfill the secondary effect, you just get a big one-hit knockout. So, yeah, I actually do like this card. Again, not really sure what I want to play it in, but I actually think I do like this. I'm going to definitely have my eye on this card. Let's see. Psychic Golduck. 80 return energy to your hand. Nope. Bye. We have Wailord. 200 HP. And just a couple of pretty straightforward attacks. And not really a big fan of this thing. Kyogre. Let's see. High Tide, attach 2 water energy from discard to one of your Pokemon. Okay. And then 130 discard energy from this Pokemon. Maybe you could use this as potential partner for Blastoise. Maybe, again, you can use greens, so maybe this is what you want to do. You'll need a way to get energy into the discard. That's the only tricky thing in this format, since we no longer have Ultra Ball. But you could even do like some cheeky stuff where you play things like Fiery Flint, even, or the new like Great Catcher, I think it's called, that we'll get to. Like you could, or even Treasure. You can literally play cards you don't even necessarily need, but Great Catcher, now that I think about it, it's probably just better. But you can play some of these types of cards to get energies in the discard pile to set up your first Blastoise, and then from there, you just kind of keep setting up more attackers once the first Blastoise goes up. So that seems kind of okay. Second attack, not too great, but first attack is, at least has some potential. We got Fion, another Pokemon we don't see too much. And its ability, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may have your opponent switch their active with one of their bench Pokemon. If you do, discard all cards attached to this Pokemon and put this Pokemon at the bottom of your deck. Okay. This is actually pretty cool. This actually would be, I think, a really solid card if we still had Brooklet Hill in the format. Just because you could, toss away the Fion and then just Brooklet it back out whenever you wanted it again. So I actually do like this ability. It still seems not too shabby. So maybe even an expanded where Brooklet still, has some potential to see play. This could be an option. It is also kind of cool. This could even be like a decent tech against like mill and stall decks where you just play one of these and you can basically never deck out. So that's definitely something you could potentially do. Of course, as long as your Pokemon, or as long as your opponent has bench Pokemon, of course. But yeah, I actually do like this. I think this is a pretty cool ability. Not really sure what I'm playing it in, and that seems to be the case for a lot of these cards. But I definitely like this as a potential one of in some sort of deck out there. So we'll have to see how this card does. But definitely, I think, a pretty decent one. We have Dusknoir. This is another evolution line that got revealed ahead of time. Let's check out the pre-evolutions. Wow, this girl has 40 HP. That is so dumb. This ability better be pretty good. So let's see. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may discard 3 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a card that evolves from this Pokemon, put it on this Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool. That makes the 40 HP a lot better. We can get Dusclops out, essentially on the first turn. I don't see any clause in this ability that would prevent you from doing that. So this ability is actually pretty good, especially if we're playing something like a deck that might want to discard energy. For Psychic type, maybe we're playing Malware. Not sure. Well, let's take a look at the other evolutions before we get too deep into that. Let's see. Dusclops 20. They can't use an attack. That's fine. And then Dusknoir, 160 HP. If this Pokemon is your active and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. So that's actually kind of cool. You have a built-in spell tag, and of course you can stack another spell tag on top of that. So that's pretty neat, I suppose. I'm just trying to think, if we're playing like a Psychic Stage 2 attacker, I almost might just want to play Aegislash instead, even though your spell, like your spread damage doesn't go quite as far because Aegislash doesn't have this ability. Aegislash has the ability to recycle itself over and over, and I think has like a higher damage cap than this thing, because Dusknoir here is only doing 60, or on following turns it's going to do 120. So yeah, if we're playing some sort of Psychic Stage 2, I think right now I like Aegislash better. And again, Unified Minds isn't even legal for play right now. I do want to keep reiterating that. So we'll have to see. Maybe Aegislash won't be in a position to do well, and Dusknoir might be better. We'll have to see. But right now, I think I just prefer Aegislash. But I really do like this evolution line. The ability on Duskull is good. Dusknoir is still solid, especially in a format where we don't have Blower. Having this ability and spell tag is really, really solid, I think. So has some potential, just not quite sold just yet. Alrighty, so let's see. We have Rotom. Colorless Energy, discard a card and draw 2. Hey, we have trade, but it's as an attack this time, so that's fine. Then Psychic Energy, attach 2 basic energies from your discard pile to bench Pokemon any way that you like. Okay. I think I actually might kind of like this card. So right now, I've kind of mentioned a few times, we don't have many great discarding effects. I think Great Catcher coming up in this little first impressions video will be one of the better examples. But in decks like the Blastoise sort of archetype that I was kind of looking at with the Kyogre and stuff, this doesn't even seem that terrible. I guess in something like that, or maybe even stuff like Malamar. This seems like a perfectly decent starter Pokemon. You can put a skateboard down on it as well, so that seems kind of okay. Jirachi just might be better though, but I don't know. His first attack isn't too bad, being colorless. The reason I say that it's not too bad is because we can play this in greens, which I think instantly makes any card more viable. Second attack, this also could be a decent way at recycling energies if we are in another greens build. So think of something like Gengar Mimikyu. If you're trying to play like a greens heavy version of that deck, you don't want to play Malamars and stuff like that. This could be a way to kind of recharge mid game. But I don't know. The more I'm talking about this, the less I like this card. So maybe it won't do much. Let's see. We have Trevenant here. Phantom, not too special. I do like the art on this Trevenant as well. I do want to say that. Let's see, 20 damage. You may have your opponent switch their active, then Shadow Impact. So nothing too special there. We got Delmise. So put a supporter from discard into hand. And let's see, tax damage is affected by resistance. So not a big fan of this, though. You could potentially play this in like a control deck for this first attack. This would be an option, but maybe a Ringer is probably just better. So you have Marshadow here. And Shadow Mimic. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, excluding GX attack, and use it as this attack. So this is like a worse version of the attack on Mimikyu, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't know this till literally today, but Mimikyu doesn't rotate because it did get a promo that was not an alternate art. So I think this is basically the same attack, but for an extra psychic energy. So this doesn't really seem too great as a result. We have a psychic baby Blastoise. I had no idea Blastoise was even a different type. I just always thought it was fire. So it's probably ghost. Or I guess it could be psychic. I'm not sure what its typing in the video game is. Feel free to correct me below if you guys want to. Or maybe poison. That's what it is, because poison's also represented as psychic in TCG. So, anyways, baby Blastoise here. Psychic colorless. Put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. If your opponent has exactly three prize cards remaining, put 12 damage counters. So we have yet again another sledgehammer like style effect, but this time it's going to be for psychic types. And of course this is damage counters and not damage, which is a big difference. There's pros and cons to it being like that, but it's okay. I really wish this would have been just a single psychic energy. That would have been a lot better, just because all the other sledgehammer style effects are just a single psychic energy. But even still, I think this is pretty good, to be honest. Like, if you're playing like a Spell Tag, Giratina, Malamar style deck or something like that, this honestly might have a place because you can power it up in one turn, and it has synergy with Spell Tag, Shrine of Punishment, and kind of the spreading shenanigans I'm like outlining here. So I actually do like this card. That's probably the deck I'd play this in. Let's see, we have Groudon. Of course, we have Kyogre, so that would make sense. Let's see, choose up 2 basic fighting energies from hand, attach them to one of your Pokemon. That's actually pretty good. I do like that. And the fact that we can place in a greens engine is also really good because we can play, of course, Viridian Forest, or even stuff like Energy Spinner to search your deck for some fighting energies. And so that actually seems pretty cool. So we'll have to look and see what fighting Pokemon might benefit from this. Zygarde GX could be a potential one. Maybe even Marshadow Machamp. So there's definitely, I think, some attackers out there that would love something like this. And especially if some of our other fighting Pokemon that we have can also abuse greens. This honestly seems like a great starter Pokemon. And then second attack, Fighting Fire Chorus to do 130. Can't use attack, that's fine. You can accelerate the energies and power this thing up pretty quickly if you want to. But probably we're just charging up something else. So yeah, I actually do like this Groudon. It's pretty good. One of the better cards I think we've looked at so far. We have Throw, another Pokemon we like never see. Let's see, Fighting Chorus 30 plus 90. If any of your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them. So it's actually a pretty easy requirement to fulfill. I think there's a few ways to get some damage counters on the field. You could play just like one of the Spirit Tombs to kind of fulfill this, though I really don't want to base an entire deck around this throw that we have here. So unfortunately, like 120 is fine, but I'm good on this. Not a huge fan of the card. See, we have Pangoro. Oh, this is interesting. It's all colorless. So I do like this. We can use triple acceleration. So that's definitely good. You can also abuse Martial Arts Dojo, Diancie as well. So let's just do the math. If we have Diancie, we're at 110 with the second attack. So with the Martial Arts Dojo, if we're fulfilling like the secondary requirement, we're hitting 150. So that's actually really good. We can knock out something like a Pikarom pretty easily. Actually, even without the secondary effect, just Diancie and Martial Arts Dojo, we're going to one-shot Pikarom. So this actually seems pretty good for that type of situation. So this actually might be a potentially good like tech Pokemon, much in the same way that Slowking has been seeing some play against Reshizard, just because it, just for a single triple acceleration, with the right modifiers and right conditions, you can just one-shot a Reshizard. So this honestly might be a Pokemon kind of in the same vein and might see a similar amount of play. As long as things like Pikarom and other Fighting Week tag teams remain popular in the format. So yeah, I actually do like this Pangoro. It's definitely a tech card, but I think it's a pretty good one as long as there are Fighting Week tag teams. So let's see, Crabrawler. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks, so effectively 170 HP, pretty good for a stage 1. That's definitely solid. Let's see, 2 fighting and cars does 80, plus 80 more if this Pokemon has any water. Nah, bye. I'm good. I don't think his attack is very good. Passimian. Let's see, so fighting 20, draw 2 cards. That's actually not too shabby. So Diancie, Martial Arts Dojo, we hit for 50. And do we still have the other Passimian? That's a good question. I forget if we lose that in rotation or not. So if we have the other Passimian still, that definitely can scale this guy's damage output up a little bit. But 20 for 1 on a fighting Pokemon isn't too bad since we can scale that damage. The only thing that's unfortunate is we do lose Choice Band, so we're not going to be able to scale as much as we once would. But hitting base damage 50, like I said, factoring in Diancie and Martial Arts Dojo, not too terrible. Not a bad starter Pokemon, so there might be some hope for this. Seems okay. And next up we have like one of the most busted cards in the set. I did see this. This got revealed like I think 2 days before the set did. Something like that. But we have Alolan Persian GX. Alright, so 200 HP, that's fine, dandy. But its ability is so dumb, guys. Prevent all effects of attacks, quick damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's tag team Pokemon, Ultra Beast, and Pokemon with special energy attached to them. Oh my god. So, I mean, we'll have to see what the format looks like whenever Persian does, get released internationally. So this ability is really only as good as the quality of these Pokemon that are in the format. We did lose Zoroark GX in rotation, so Pokemon based around special energy might take a hit compared to, by the time this thing gets legal, I'm not sure if there are going to be any great special energy based attackers. We'll have to see. But walling against tag teams is, fantastic just as an ability. Ultra Beast also pretty relevant. Even decks like Zapdos play like a random Ultra Beast and stuff like that in them. So this ability is really busted. The attacks are pretty forgettable, and the attack cost on them is a little bit annoying. But its ability is good enough to where you probably just don't care. So Dark Double Colorless 120, it's fine, I guess. And GX attack is 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And you don't apply weakness, resistance, or any other effects on that Pokemon. So you're capped at 120 with this Persian, but since you're such a good wall, like I said, you really don't care. Dark and triple acceleration will get this guy powered up pretty quickly. Or you can maybe even play this kind of like how Malamar decks play Ultra Necrozma. You play predominantly Psychic energies, but you play like 3 to 4 Dark energies to search out with Viridian, and Malamar can like keep accelerating your energies that way. So that seems like something. Of course, we have Welder as well. So there are some like non-triple energy acceleration ways to get this thing powered up. But this card is super, super good. Based on what I'm looking at for the metagame currently. That might change by the time this comes out, like I said. But for the moment, this ability looks super, super good. Let's see, we have Alolan Muck. This artwork is very interesting. Not a big fan, but it's very, very stylistic. Let's see, Dark Colors 20. Your opponent's active is now Poison Burn Confused. Not really a great way at powering this thing up, but the combination of special conditions is honestly pretty good since we are in a format without Guzma or Acerola. So maybe there's hope for this, but the double attachment really holds us back. If this was just 1 for 20, I actually think this would be half decent, but the double attachment really kills the card. We got Absol. Let's see what Absol does here. Colorless, discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay. Not too terrible, I suppose. Being colorless energy is pretty good. Dark Color 70, discard one card from your hand. If you can't discard cards, attack does nothing. Not very good. Let's see. Poniard and Bisharp. Attack on Poniard here is actually kind of good. Look at your opponent's hand, discard one item card you find there. Not too bad for just a pre-evolution. Better than, you know, just 1 for 10. Let's see, we have Bisharp here. According to your opponent's active, can't retreat. And then 80's Pokemon can't use attack during your next turn. Nothing special. We got Guzzlord. Let's see what we got here. Let's see, Dark Energy. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Dark Dart, 2 colorless, 120. If your opponent's active is knocked out by damage from this attack, take one more prize card. That's really not too bad. So I actually kind of do like this card. We do still have Beast Ring in the format, and there's plenty of other different dark attackers to kind of lead the game with if you are trying to play this Guzzlord. Like, you could play the like Umbreon, like Spirit Tomb style deck and play this as kind of like your mid to late game attacker. Taking one prize card extra is really, really busted. So I don't know, I actually kind of like this card. That's the type of deck I would kind of envision this in. I'm not sure if that type of deck is even going to be viable by the time this comes out. We'll have to wait and see. But that actually doesn't seem too terrible to me. You know, I ran into a lot of that deck online whenever, for the pre-rotation format, when we saw Guzzlord GX. I remember playing at some people that played that as like a mid-game attacker where they just went crazy with Beast Rings and tried to like cheese some extra prizes, you know, after things like Spirit Tombs and Umbreons kind of like soften things up. So, I don't know. This card doesn't seem too terrible. Better than some of the other Guzzlords, I'll say that. We got Zangoose, and oh my god, this artwork is terrible. Like, I cannot get down with this illustration. Let's see. 1 for 10. Second attack, 20 plus 10 for each damage counter on your opponent's active. It's like kind of okay. It's like a worse version of the Honchkrow from Guardians Rising that we just lost. Now the big thing, this is a basic, so that makes it kind of better in that regard. But this is, I mean, well, we don't have double colorless energy. That's like the big downside to this card right here. But maybe there's some hope in expanded as a one-of, potentially. Just trying to think what deck. Like, I'm thinking Zoroark for, like, if you're playing its tag team decks, you, like, swing on them with Zoroark to, you know, soften them up. They knock out your Zoroark, and then you can, like, clean them up with knocking out, or you can clean up your knockouts with Zangoose. So that seems like kind of okay. You can also do the same thing for like Seismitoad EX. Seismitoad EX never takes one hit knockouts, and once you get kind of like later in the game, you can force a 7 prize game by cleaning up a knockout with this. I mean, you break your item lock, which is pretty bad, but it is an option. So maybe an expanded. Not really a big fan of standard, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Second attack, it's okay. If Honchkrow can see play being a stage 1, this might see play being a basic. And okay, we're already at the bottom. We have our last Pokemon. We got Beware. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 less. Okay, so it's like the old Dodrios that we've had, which really isn't too bad. You know, we're in a format without Floatstone, so this isn't too terrible. Essentially giving most of your Pokemon free retreat, depending on the deck, of course. And the attack's like not terrible. If you're playing like a deck with triple acceleration energy, 120 on a coin flip for one attachment isn't too bad. But the ability, it's okay. Not really sure what you want to play this in. That's the real downside I see. I mean, Dodrio saw play back in like the Heart Gold, Soul Silver, like Black and White, like type of format, specifically in the Noble Victories format where we had Chandelure. People would play Dodrio to allow them a method of retreating under their own item lock. So in those types of situations, a card like this would be good, but not sure if there's really a reason right now to play it. Ability's not bad, I just don't see a potential application for it off the top of my head at least. And then we're going to take a look at some of the items here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times in Japan sets, their items and trainers are usually filled with a bunch of reprints. That's not really necessarily an indication we're going to get them reprinted in this set, so just something to kind of keep in mind. One of the big new cards, though, Great Catcher. Definitely, I think, a really, really solid card. So it says, discard 2 cards from your hand and switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon GX or EX with their active. And I have to say, guys, I am a huge fan of this card for the way it's designed. This, I think, is such a fair and balanced card. And I don't know if you've been following this channel for long, but one thing I always whine about is, how Pokemon consistently, in recent years, probably in the last 10 years, I would say, more notably, or, maybe like 8-ish years, 7 or 8 years, the game has been dominated by basic Pokemon, and evolutions really have not had a great chance outside of a couple of random formats. Generally speaking, though, we've been in a basic heavy dominated, game for years and years, and, a lot of times when we have these effects like Pokemon Catcher before it was a coin flip, or Lysander or Guzma, you can pick off a lot of like low HP evolving basics before they get a chance to evolve into evolutions. And I think that's when the game is at its best, when evolutions have a chance to flourish. And this is such a great card because it punishes all of the tag team decks, whereas it doesn't quite as heavily punish some of the evolution decks. Of course, if you're a GX evolution deck, Great Catcher will still affect you, but your setup can't be, messed up by this card. They can't pick off your low HP basics, and basically this gives slower, more setup heavy decks still a chance to get set up, all while punishing the more aggressive decks. So I'm a huge fan of this card. I absolutely love the way they designed this thing. This honestly might even be my favorite card in the set that we've looked at. So really big fan of this thing here. Let's see. We do have a couple of new supporters. We got Professor Oak's setting. Let's see. So search your deck for up to 3 base Pokemon of different types. Put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. Okay. This is actually a pretty cool card. We have Professor Elm's Lecture right now. We have Pokemon Fan Club. And now we have Oak setting, which provides some options that those other cards don't. And I really like the way this is designed because the big downside to Elm, of course, is that you can only get 60 HP Pokemon, and even though that very much excludes tag teams and stuff like that, which I think is great, there's still a lot of 70 HP basics and 80 HP basics that are floating around I think deserve to be able to be searched out by a supporter like this. So Oak is really nice because you can even get tag teams if you want. But now we have a searching effect similar to Elm that a lot of different decks can abuse. So at first you might think, well, you need 3 different types of base Pokemon. That's kind of annoying. But think of something like the Quagsire Naganadel deck, just as an easy example. So if you play this card, you can actually search your deck for Wooper, Ditto Prism, and then a Poipole. Or even in the case of a deck like Quagsire, there's actually different types of Woopers. So you could even go, Ditto, Water Wooper, and then the Fighting Wooper. So if there's any evolution lines out there that do have these alternate typed basics, this is actually a really, really good card to maybe get set up with. So I'm a big fan of this Professor Oak setting. Now, of course, the big downside is we don't have Tapu Lele GX in the format right now, or a similar Pokemon, so it's very hard to achieve this on the first turn without running like fairly high counts of this card. Nevertheless, though, I'm a pretty big fan of it, though. I like it. Next we have Roller Skater. Okay. Let's see. Discard a card from your hand, draw 2. But if you discard an energy, draw 2 more. Okay. That's actually really not too bad. I could especially see this maybe even being good in a deck like Blacephalon, just as an example, or even Malamar. just because you're trying to pitch away energies anyways. So that seems kind of like an option. Discarding 1 to draw 4 isn't too terrible. You know, we have TV Reporter, which is draw 3, then discard any card afterwards. We've had Sophocles, which has even seen play, where you discard any 2 cards. So I think there is actually a world where this does potentially see some play. There's a bunch of decks right now. I think, you know, again, at the time of filming, pre-Unified Minds, I think there looks to be a bunch of decks that would want a way of more reliably discarding cards, and Roller Skater actually might be able to do that. So it seems okay. We'll have to see what decks are looking like by the time this comes out, but I think this actually doesn't seem too bad. So we have Wheat Guard Energy, which is a reprint, right? Because we like literally just got this card in Miracle Twins, so interesting that they already reprinted it. And then I believe this is the last new card we have. Draw Energy provides colorless energy, and when you attach this card from your hand to a Pokemon, you may draw a card. That's kind of okay. I'm just trying to think what deck wants this right now. Like maybe, like maybe you just play this as like a one of in Reshizard or something because you need 1 colorless energy anyways on you, or I don't know. There's got to be something. I wish this was draw 2. That would definitely incentivize me to play this a bit more. Just drawing 1, I'm not sure if that's enough of an added benefit to, you know, take away the consistency of your primary energies that you need to use to attack with. So I'm not sure if the effect is good enough. If it was draw 2, I think we'd be in business. Draw 1, not a big fan right now though. And then, guys, we have some more alternate art reprints. Most likely, of course, these will be distributed as promos, like League promos, League Cup promos throughout the season, throughout the year. Got Acrobike, Skateboard, Lady. I actually really like the artwork on this thing. This thing looks pretty dope. And we have Welder. I'm sure this is going to be a highly sought after one. So that's that. Yeah, guys. Well, we got to the end of the set, so let's kind of scroll back through, see what we had. I already forget. I think the big card I like most. Great catcher, super busted card, but I also think it's super balanced in the way it's designed. Of course, it being an item is kind of busted, but at the same time, I don't mind screwing over tag team and GX heavy decks. So anything that does that is fine by me. Anything that allows for non-GX evolution-based decks to thrive, or even evolution-based GX decks, is going to be something I am a fan of. So, do like that. Let's see what else we had here. Oh, Alolan Persian GX. I think this is definitely one of the best Pokemon that got printed in the set. Let's see. Pangoro, not too bad. Oh, Groudon. Do like Groudon. Blastoise as well. Do like that. Dusknoir isn't too bad. It's more in the middle of the road. Fion's not too bad. We have Blastoise Piplup GX. I actually did kind of like this card. I definitely like the Venusaur tag team the least, but I kind of like this and the Charizard one both. See, Entei isn't too bad as a potential one-of in certain decks. Charizard Braixen, also decent. I think both the Blastoise and Charizard are decent. I'm not sure if either one is super busted. Well, I'll change what I'm saying here. If we are in a two-shotting format, like I was kind of saying earlier about this Charizard, this card becomes so much better just because this attack is insane in a two-shotting format. But if we are still in a one-hit KO-oriented format, probably not too great. Let's see, grass Pokemon, nothing too special. So yeah, guys, that is going to be Remix Bout. This will most likely come out in our November set, so it'll be a while before we actually get these cards. But you know, still fun kind of seeing what is coming down the pipeline. Are there any cards in here that you guys were excited about? Definitely, of course, sound off below in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts on some of these cards that we're getting in Remix Bout. But anyways, guys, if you did enjoy this video, feel free to like and subscribe. And of course, if you can support this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg, or by picking up some merch from our online store, rarecandytcg.com, it would mean a lot. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.